Welcome everyone, welcome aboard. My name is Demin Segui and today we are going to install the static analysis engine called Exakat on your system. To do that, we will first check all the prerequisites, then we will actually do the installation, and finally, just to make sure everything is running smoothly, we will be running an audit on an open source project. So let's start. First, we need to check the prerequisite, and the first thing we need is of course PHP. Here I am using PHP 7.3.9, which is the latest as of today. Exakat is actually able to run on anything from 7.0 to 7.4. Just choose the one you prefer, and we'll see later that we can actually choose other PHP versions to actually run the audit itself. The other prerequisite that we have is Java, and Java 8 is needed to run the central database that Exakat relies on. So just make sure that Java is available in the system. Finally, and since we are going to do an audit on a real code, we will use Git to download the code and check that it runs. So just make sure that Git is available and Exakat will find it by itself. This is not exactly a prerequisite, but that will be useful later. So let's start. To begin with, we are going to make a separate folder. So install Exakat, it's its own folder. That should be no more than that. So here we are. The installation process is detailed online on the manual, so you can go on exakat.readthedocs.io, where you will find the constantly upgraded installation and manual. From there you will find all the information. So instead of just copying what I'm going to write, please go there and do the copy paste. This is exactly the same command line that I'm going to use. Otherwise, well, let's start with the important part. So we are going to download Exakat itself. This is a file that is available directly online on the Exakat.io website. So simple curl should be sufficient to actually download it. Then we are going to do about the same for the server. The central database is actually also a zip archive. So just do the installation first, and then we're going to unzip it and move it so that it's actually at the right place. Unzip the different archive for Tinkergraph. Then we are going to move the folder at the right place. And we are going also to clean the original elements, and we end up with a very simple folder containing only the file archive and then the Tinkergraph. At that point, I will recommend you to use and to do the installation of the Neo4j plugin. It is not necessary, but it's actually very convenient to use when dealing with larger applications. So do the installation. If it fails, then you can also do it correctly with the basic install. At that point, we've got everything, so let's start checking everything online. Exakat version 1.9.5, everything is running fine, and then we are going to use the doctor. Doctor will actually check installation and if everything is available, and it will give all the details and all the diagnostic about the installation itself. So it's very convenient to have that if you have to report bugs or whenever you have problems during the installation. Feel free to mention that. Now we are ready actually to run that. I would like to spend a little time reviewing the current configuration, but before we can actually start the audit itself and deal with the configuration together while we are waiting for the audit. So here I'm going to run Doctor second time to have it available, and I'm going to now start moving to the running the audit. We are going to do the audit on a Sculpin open source project, which is a PHP application that does static websites. And for that, we actually start with the first step, which is the for init, where we give a name. Here we use the open source project names, and we also provide the distance, the remote source, so we can actually download the code. As you can see, this is mostly a first step that will download the code and make it ready in the local project. This way, the code is separated from the actual development code. Now, if you want to know, here, Exakat is now combined by different other folders, in particular the project folder. Inside the project folder, you will find the Sculpin folder, and that's where the code itself, the configuration, and everything that is needed. This is where we'll find Exakat's result. So I'm going to start the analysis itself, and we are going to take advantage of this little time to actually review the configuration. So here I'm just scrolling back to the top of the doctor's results, so we can actually take a look while everything is running in the background. Here we have a first section called Exakat. You will find again the version number and the build number, so you can be sure that everything is up to date. There is also an Exakat command called upgrade that will fetch, if necessary, the recent version on the exakat.io. Just know that we are trying to produce a new version every Monday, so every week there's a little upgrade and a new little change in Exakat. You can see here the different extra reports. So all of the current one are just the default one. The rule sets that are configured currently. So all those are informations and configuration that you can check in the manual in the configuration folder, where you will prepare ahead of time what kind of review you want to do on the code, and then get the results in the report. Here everything that is available is provided. Then you have a new section about PHP. PHP, so we'll find again the 7.3.9 version. So far so good. This is the PHP version that is needed to run Exakat. And the second important line is the configuration of the memory limit, which is currently -1. This is a standard when you're running on CLI, but it is recommended to let Exakat use a lot of memory, although usually it does not use a lot of memory by itself. Then there is the list of required extension. So you've got a better feedback on what you need to install before actually running Exakat. Not all of them are necessary. Some of them are optionals that will be mentioned here. Since it's available, then Exakat will try to take advantage of them. Then you've got the feedback on Java. Again, the version is available, the location. I will just attract your attention on the Java option. Since for the small versions, this is the case for Sculpin, we don't need much memory, but the central database tends to be using a lot of memory, so you can actually use this specific line of command to the environment variable to specify more memory for Java itself. Here, the maximum memory being used is 16 gigabytes. It's way too much. Usually you can run most of the PHP code repositories on 5 to 6 gigabytes with no problem. Below is the different options for running the central database. That looks good. And finally, the small PHP one here are the different PHP versions that are being configured. So as you remember, we have checked that there is a config folder that is now next to the far after running the Doctor. And this is where you can go and add different paths for different PHP versions. Here, Exakat managed to detect that the only version available is the one that's running Exakat itself. So there's always one PHP version available, of course, and it will reuse this one. Otherwise, you can actually get reports on various versions at the same time while running the audit. And at that point, you can see that we have the feedback from the application. So we just have to accept and access the report. The simplest report will be Exakat Ambassador, which is the largest Exakat report. It is why it takes a little time to do the first run, and I will just access it with a browser. So I will open it as the project, the name of the project, and it will be actually conveniently used in the report. From there, I have the file that is arrived, and as you can see, everything has been analyzed. There are the number of files, the version used, different analysis, some feedback on how the errors are being detected, and then all the issues, the suggestion, and the inventories. There you can actually do the same on any of your application and repeat the same lines, meaning init, then project. And there you have your audit. Thank you very much and enjoy.